Hi, good afternoon, everyone. While the stage is being set for the panel discussion, what we are going to cover, I think one of the key aspects of corporate financial management is the topic for today, which is GST. But GST itself is such a enormous topic. Just today, I think I was reading that the collection for October is 1.7 lakh crores. We've crossed 1.5 lakh crores 4 times already this year, and it's growing. I think we've seen with GDP growing, with economy doing well. Maybe we'll touch 5 trillion very soon by 2027. I think that's the target. So this whole topic is going to become much more bigger. So what I thought was, let me just touch upon one aspect of GST, which is the employee initiated spend. So the input tax credit that we can claim on the employee spend, which is done for business improvement or for actually getting more business. So that's what I'm going to touch upon. I'm Anand Agnihotri. I head partnerships for SAP Concur. Given that I'm in a role of managing partnerships, the natural thing that comes to me is collaboration. So I thought, let me collaborate with our customers, with our partners, with my colleagues, get them for a panel discussion and make sure that we are able to actually discuss a few important aspects of ITC for the employee initiated spend. And I'd like to call upon our panelists, Mihir, Rohit, Keya, and Aniket. Please come on stage. We have Mihir Ranjan Panigrahi from Hindustan Coca-Cola. He's the AVP Finance and the Shared Services Head for Hindustan Coca-Cola. He's a chartered accountant by profession. He's been with Hindustan Coca-Cola for almost 15 years. He was telling me that he joined there as a management trainee, and now he heads a function at Hindustan Coca-Cola, which speaks highly of even the corporate culture within the organization. A management trainee rising to a functional head and now managing multiple management trainees. So welcome to the panel. Another fun fact about Mihir is that he loves singing. And I thought it's a fun fact because the image that we have about CFOs is that they are very serious kind of people working with numbers. But yeah, he loves singing. So welcome to the panel. Then we have Rohit, who's the founder of an organization, a startup called Finkraft. He's also a chartered accountant and he's an alumni of Harvard Business School. He's a second generation entrepreneur. This is his third venture. So a serial entrepreneur. I think entrepreneurship runs in the family. So welcome. And a fun fact, again, a chartered accountant, but if he had not been a chartered accountant, he would have been a F1 driver. So his passion is racing. And he says that if he had not been a chartered accountant, we would have seen him competing with the Hamiltons and Verstappens of the world. So welcome again. Then we have Keya Shukla. She is the Vice President for Product Engineering in Finkraft. But she's also a former Assistant Commissioner at GST. So that's the angle that she would bring into this discussion. Again, she was in the corporate world for 10 years. Then she went on to the government side, worked as a commissioner in GST, and now back to the corporate world. She's an alumnus of IIM Ranchi, MBA Finance from there. So esteemed panelist, and again, a finance person, worked in the government as a commissioner. But a fun fact is she's high on life. So yeah, again, welcome to the panel. And Aniket, who's a principal solution consultant. a partner in crime for many of the projects that I do at SAP Concur. He also comes from a Concur background because before Concur he used to work for a Concur customer. So that's the angle that he will bring into this discussion. And fun fact, well, actually, I don't know if it is a fun fact, but yeah, he used to be a cricket fan, and he's decided that he's going to become a cricket fan only after 4 years when the next World Cup is around. So yeah, I mean, such is life. Welcome everybody. I think the reason I gave a detailed introduction is just to establish that this is really a diverse panel, and the views that we'll get to hear from them about this particular topic is coming from different perspectives and different contexts. So first question to everyone, and we can start with you, Mihir, is we all have heard that GST, it's a challenging topic. Input tax credit is challenging. When it comes to employee spend, it is even. So what exactly is this challenge that you're facing? I mean, if you can go back a little bit in time, what exactly is this challenge so that we set the context for this discussion?
Yeah. So thank you, Anand. So allow me to say a story. Before I come to the challenge, for long actually we were discussing whether to go ahead with Concur or not. We had a legacy system in place, and finally we decided to go ahead on 2020 Feb and March, and then come the 15 March 2020, everything come to halt. While all other buses, sales was stopped, production was stopped. Because of the Concur, the employee reimbursement was working seamlessly. So I would say that's the evaluation that we have made. And of course, the journey comes with no paperwork to paperless, no ticking, writing, documenting, signing. So a lot of benefit has come up with the transition and transformations. And coming back to the challenge, I would say that while we have addressed the upstream process, the challenge comes with the GST, particularly for the air and travel lodging, where it's kind of collecting document indirect to indirect. Why I'm saying indirect to indirect? Because there is company, there is an employee, and there is a vendor, and in between there is a TCM, travel partner. So it's kind of layer after layer upon layer. And how do you ensure that you get the right document at first place, particularly for the hotel bill and where the GST was mandated and you have to write down the GST, you have to collect tax invoices to get it credit. So it was throwing a lot of challenge in terms of that. While with the help of Rohit, we addressed the airlines part seamlessly, but we still face the problem of getting the right information at first place for the hotel. And think that somebody sales or people who are traveling, employee who are traveling for the business purpose, and think about Friday or so, people waiting in the queue to get a bill at the counter, and then you ask them that no, GST is there, you check GST number, that, and blah, blah, all these things. And create, some way it has dipped the employee experience. And post that, once they travel and they submit, they don't check anything, and then they submit. And comes to the shared service center, and simply the guy reject the bill. Some way it hurt their ego. Then so how can somebody, I have traveled genuinely, and how can somebody straight away reject that? So I believe that's the challenge it is throwing up right now, and we are seeing that now how the ecosystem can help us to seamlessly, integratedly get the right to be at the first place itself.
Sure. Thanks, and I can definitely empathize with the employee and also relate to this challenge, because I think most of us have gone through this. Just building up on this challenge, I wanted to ask Keya. So with the government moving from a VAT regime to a GST regime. Obviously, there has been an evolution. But what does that, what kind of challenges that has created to the Indian economy at large and to the corporates in particular?
So I joined the department in 15-16 while it was a VAT era or value added tax era. Life was much simpler. It was a state tax, so you only need to have an invoice to claim credit. So during audits, we would see their purchase register. If they have an invoice, fine. There was no way for the officer to see whether the tax has been paid to the government. Is this a valid invoice, or is it still there in the supply register of the vendor? But with GST coming in, there is a huge transparency and empowerment of the officers that has set in. The officer has now numerous reports. They have the entire supply register, output supply register of the vendor. We know which hotel your employee went through, which hotel the expenses happened. So if it's coming to your 2B data, if it's coming to you on your GST portal, we want the corporate to acknowledge that this is the spent, and we want you to provide invoices. So if you say, okay, we are using SAP and as an expense management tool, but we are not claiming credit because of XYZ reasons, as he mentioned. It's a challenge for the employee to put in the GST number, following up for the invoices, or just like that, you don't want to get into that calculations, whether this is eligible credit, ineligible credit. Now it won't, be acceptable to the officer, because we want to know why you have not taken this GST credit. It is there in your 2B data, so you have to account for that. So that is a challenge I see for corporates right now. And only technology, I think, considering the huge volumes that a Coca-Cola might have, would be a solution to this. So transparency and empowerment of the officer. So back in those days in VAT, you would see piles of, so many files of, documents here and there. With GST, the officers have also become smart. The AI-driven notices, I'm sure all CFOs sitting in the room would say that so many hearings now. So just imagine these hearings which you all are going through are for 2017-18, when there was no e-way bills, when there was no e-invoicing data, even the 2B was not getting populated. Imagine a scenario, as you said, we are in a time machine, and 3 years, 4 years down the line, when you guys face audits, that will be huge. An e-invoice, you have a tax invoice you claimed, but you don't have an e-invoice, sorry, you can't get the credit. So on this perspective, the things will become much more complex unless we find a technology-aided solution to this. So as they say, questions from GST department, the AI is asking nowadays. It's AI-generated notices. So we also need to be prepared from the corporates to be able to answer to those AI notices driven by our technology backend. So this is my view.
So thanks. I think there's also something she mentioned that when GST came in, before GST, life was simpler with VAT. I think it's also a life learning that if you think that any challenge is really big, you just take up a bigger challenge, and then the current challenge will look smaller. So I think that's the way to look at it. Thanks. Coming to you, Rohit, you have kind of founded this whole company on this particular challenge. So what was your perspective, and how do you look at this challenge in particular? And then we'll move to the technology side of it.
Yeah, honestly, though I would take credit of forming the company, I think the problem statement and the vision in which we created was from one of the customers only. I remember one of the CFO discussions in Capgemini, and she spoke about just few months after GST was rolled out in July 2017, about the immense amount of money which is being lost on the travel spend, mainly on the airline thing, because that was even the entire ecosystem was broken. Airlines were not able to create proper invoices. There was a definite lag. travel agents were stepping back, saying that it's not in our control, and that problem statement really needed a solution. It needed a platform which integrated with all the various stakeholders, be it the Amexes of the world, where you're using centralized credit cards to reimburse that expense, or be it the travel agents who are giving reimbursement invoices, and the GST was part of the invoice issued by the airlines. We started creating invoices on behalf of Qatar and a lot of airlines. We understood the pain point from their side. Suddenly the law mandated that every state from where you embark from, the revenue should go there. So they had registrations there to be created. That means, round trips required different invoices being generated. I think from a problem statement, it was galore, but when we looked at it, probably I was outside the travel domain, so I could have first principles looking at it. It looked that if you can get all the stakeholders on a common platform, all the 6, 7 stakeholders, it really be the expense tool in which, or the travel agency, or the credit card companies, or the airlines, or the hotels, and the GST in portal, and now the NICs and the 6 IRPs which are there. In a common platform, it can generate immense amount of value. Fortunately for me, I think the pain for each of the stakeholder was immense, and each one wanted to be compliant, wanted to adhere towards, and probably timing was good for us. We were able to get the entire ecosystem together, all the large travel agencies hooked into our platform, all the major airlines were able to get into. So I think that really helped in terms of us trying to found the unique proposition about solving it, because it's an ecosystem problem.
Thanks, Rohit. So I think you really found that niche, and you're working towards making it a solution which can be adopted by India as a country. Coming to Aniket, so we've heard the corporate side of it, we've heard the government side of it. From a technology solution provider, what was your thought process in in addressing or identifying this challenge as something which because I remember we started discussing this quite some time back. So what went into actually assessing this particular challenge, and then obviously we'll talk of the solution later.
Yeah, so I would put it this way. So as a technology solutions provider, it's very important to look at what is happening and what is that is expected to come in the next 3 or 4 years, right? So I'll just take a step back, and all of us, this is sometime in 2020, when the GST invoice had just been announced for vendors for more than 500 crore turnover. And a couple of us in the room were just discussing we were doing a design thinking workshop on what can be the next big thing in employee expense management. And this is the topic which came into the discussion. Now we had 2 options. One option was we get into that domain, we solve the problem for our customers. But we chose the other route because what platform has already done, what Concur as a platform back when it started in 92, what it has done is it's an open platform, right? Any partner can connect to it. So we chose this route, wherein how can we integrate the platform with a partner who has expertise to that domain, right? So, and that's where we were fortunate enough that one of us had worked with Finkraft as an organization. So not many people were aware of them at that point of time, but one of us had worked. So that was the context, that how we had faced the problem, what we did, and what the route we chose. Now, when it comes to delivering what the intent we had in mind back in that time, while we'll talk about all the benefits the customer gets, but from our perspective as a technology solutions provider, I think biggest value proposition we had was compliance, because I'm sure some of you already know about Concur. So biggest value driver we have for our customer is the compliance, and Ashwini talked about it as well, wherein how you can ensure that every spend is in compliance with your company policy. And we were also providing at that point of time a view to our customers on potential GST reclaim as well. But the fundamental problem with that approach was it was purely internal in nature. What it lacked was integration with different sources which we need today for reconciliation of GST, right? That was one part which was missing. So in order to have the entire picture for customers to get 100% compliance, both in terms of your internal policies as well as compliance with government GST regulations, is what the intent was at that point of time. And obviously this also led to other benefits like productivity and other things which we are going to talk about as we proceed here.
Thanks, Aniket. So I think that point in time we were able to quantify the problem, but there was no next step beyond that, and that's when we started working on the solution. So coming back to you, Mihir. So you said that you know, obviously compliance is a challenge, but there was also that employee, I would say, ego, or that little bit of emotional hurt when his claim gets rejected. That is always there, but it is not something that you can just let go, right? You can't live with it. If it is a matter of paying something extra as an allowance or something, that is something which was okay in the earlier time. But now, because of the compliance angle involved, you can't just live with it. So what was your approach to the solution, and what is the current state look like for you?
Yeah, so I would say that a lot of company has done that. They have focused around supplier experience and customer experience, and how do you enhance those. And some way the employee experience was taken for granted, and thereby created a lot of issues. So as a solution, I would say it's all completely manual process today. So employee travel, he will come up with the invoice, maybe that will mention pro forma invoice, copy invoice, no tax invoice, no e-invoice, because e-invoice gets generated after 7 days. They will not generate at the time of counter itself. So getting those copy itself into the ecosystem is a challenge. So the employee travel come back to us with all this aberration, wrong tax code, not charging GST also. So being large manufacturing companies, so there are a lot of fleet in the street would goes working in tier 1, tier 2 kind of, tier 3 kind of cities, where you'll find more problem in terms of the GST compliance, and getting the right document, and there it create that bottlenecks, and some way once this travel it come back to us, people will validate, and it's through all completely manual and eyeballing, and there could be leakage. You cannot control all these things effectively. And post that also, as you say, a lot of time it hurt the ego. Some way the shared service experience, or if you do a survey, the points of the net promoter score went down, in terms of the experience, and how do. So we started taking that ownership. So my team started following. Leave aside the employee, they started taking the ownership of calling directly to the hotel, talking about the tax invoice, what actually need to be provided, changing them, and changing them multiple times to get the document, and then kind of take that document for filing, and some way address that issue. But I'm saying the way we are going today, I think it's not a sustainable solutions. So effectively, even if we increase the manpower, effectively it boils down to the skill set, and with churning out very frequently, you cannot sustain that process for long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it throws the challenge of getting how you can automate and how you can bring entire ecosystem into place and create seamlessly complied with things. So that's what we are actually looking at, and that's what we are also evaluating some of the solutions that how it can help us in terms of meeting that.
Absolutely. So the effort is now on to making sure that this becomes as seamless and paperless. And another point I wanted to make is, there could be places in India where there may not be network connectivity, but you'll definitely find a Coca-Cola bottle there. So I'm sure the amount of travel that your employees do is much more than some of us can imagine.
Effectively, I think one of the great solution you have is mileage. We effectively use it very, very diligently, and I don't know, maybe we would be the biggest user of that mileage program, and I think we are getting a lot of benefit out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks. So again, coming to you, Rohit, you elaborated on the challenge. So what has been your approach to this solution as a standalone company, and then we'll talk about how collaboratively we have come up with we can come up with a fantastic solution.
So I think technology being at the heart, it was important that we build an end-to-end, no-touch, automated process. Fortunately for us, the ecosystem helped. We were able to get all the 6 key stakeholders which I talked about come onto our platform. That ensured that, and thanks to Nikhil's presentation, where you saw 3 important aspects of the product solutioning. One was the vendor score. It was important to get transparency in terms of how compliant the other stakeholder is. It's an open book now, where we dynamically calculate the vendor score based on the percentage of liabilities paying, the delays in terms of number of days. As you know, as per the current regulations, if he does not file his R1s on 10th of the next month, you as a customer will lose the credit because it will not reflect in the 2B, and so on and so forth. So getting one score was the first solutioning which we solved, which was the vendor score. The second important part which we were able to do is ensure that the reconciliation which you saw in that visual which Nikhil showed, the 3-4-way matching which is happening across various data points. They are much better off with e-invoicing coming in, because now we are not dependent upon invoice numbers as a matching criteria, but it's the 64-digit IRN numbers matching. So it's the kind of the recon is really moved a notch higher. And lastly, because now we are able to get digital data, it's not only the OCR data or data which was converted or digitized from paper, but we were able to get it right from the stakeholders, right from the IRPs, right from the right service providers. We were able to get HSN breakups also. So we were able to get the negative list items like food and all also clearly demarcated to help populate the purchase registers and take very informed, compliant decisions. So 3 parts of it: the vendor score, the reconciliation, and getting breakups at an HSN level to take compliant decisions.
Thanks. Yeah, please. Yeah.
I'm saying that for the reconciliation, what you mentioned, today also we are facing a lot of challenge in terms of reconciliations, GST, because you'll find while the GST number is common, you find the vendor name, what would be appearing in the employee, the reimbursement statement, and would not be the same name what would be appearing in 2B. Okay, There is another scenario where what you collect a tax invoice, that invoice number, and when you match with the e-invoice generated from the GST code, both are different numbers. So manually getting it done is a task, and some way I would say that no, the kind of effort we put in to get it matched and get it recovered and utilized as an input credit, I think we are not getting that ROI, I say that no, in terms of, because ultimately it is all about working capital. No, if there is 3 month delay in terms of reconciliation and getting that credit, thereby also you lose money. So I think we could know kind of if there can be interest, no, it would be really help us in terms of.
I'll just build on with, I think you've got what, 25 registrations? So every month you've just compounded the problem. And thanks to the hotel ecosystem and the way GST is being put, place of supply being the place of the immovable property, that means wrong numbers appearing in wrong ledgers, reconciliation, yes, is painful and required to be done on a timely basis.
Okay, thanks. And coming to you, Keya. Again, I want to hear the government perspective on this. So, what does the government expect as an ideal solution to this? I mean, if we were to build a scenario where everything is hunky dory and everything is happening, what would that be? I mean, what's the expectation from the?
Yeah. Expectation is whatever is there in your to be must be there accounted for. It must be in your purchase register. If you are using it for further supply, further outward supply, you should take ITC. If it is eligible credit, you take ITC. If it is ineligible, you still take and reverse it. I'm sure all of us must have received emails from the government regarding the latest advisory, Rule 37A, where you are being penalized for non-compliance of your vendor. So government is coming back to the corporates now that these 1, 2, 3 people defaulted on payments and now you please pay because they were your vendors. But if the solutions shown by SAP, you already come to know that these are the vendors whose risk rating or vendor score is lower. So we might get into troubles and litigation with the department is one thing. So we need to be one step ahead of the government if we are to reduce the number of litigations and interest demands under Section 50 and being penalized for the non-compliance of vendors. And I think technology is the only solution when you are able to do those reconciliations. Suppose if an auditor also comes 3 years, 4 years down the line, he also wants to know where was this accounted for, whether it has been reversed or not, where is the invoice, even if you have the invoice, where is the e-invoice, are those tallying, and this doing it in a retrospective way after filing of GSTR1 becomes difficult. But if you know about it right from the step where e-invoice is made, you go back to the vendor and tell them that boss, this is the rate negotiated or this is the GST in you, but you should change that. That will save a lot of time and litigation of the corporates. So which is possible by the use of the product, I believe. So being ahead of the government is the need. And that can be done only because government is using a lot of AI now. There are so many trainings. Earlier we used to have one, in the government, the trainings used to be one retreat somewhere. But now there are online training sessions. They're also upgrading their systems, processes, QR codes. Everything is being technology driven there. So unless we ride that wagon and we are ahead of them, we can avoid litigations that ways and save a lot of our time in focusing on business rather than conversing and writing replies to the notices that we are receiving.
I'll just interject there. I think, earlier regimes was better. VAT regimes, you go back to your suppliers, you have relations. वो last year का invoice जरा ठीक करके दे देना. अभी you've given us 24 hours. E-invoice has to be either rectified or that's it. That's the final thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of transparency, and I hope corporates would appreciate that.
And I think again, going back to the earlier statement that I made, maybe 10 years from now, we'll say GST was better because it was, you just had to do reconciliation and take the input tax credit. It was so much better, but now we have this AST or whatever. So anyway, so see, Aniket, we've heard a corporate view on, how it should be seamless, no ego hurt of the employee. We've heard from Rohit what is the kind of solution that he's built as a company, and also the expectations that we should be ahead of the government, a couple of steps ahead. Maybe in our previous generation that was easier said, but now with the current scheme of things, the way the government is moving, I think it's a tough ask. So if all of us collaborate together, what's the kind of thing we can actually achieve to address some of these things that you mentioned?
See, one important fundamental thing which we need to consider here is no matter whatever value addition or a gain an organization gets, if it is coming at the cost of employee experience, it is not going to fly. It is not sustainable, right? So that is fundamental, wherein just think of it, this topic from an end user perspective who's on business travel. It doesn't matter to me if you are reclaiming GST, if you are in compliance with GST, right? Because that is not, I am supposed to spend time with my customer. I'm not supposed to take care of all that. So
actually, when this GST thing came in and our finance asked us to, capture that, we all thought that this is a finance guy who's trying to do this. Yeah. I mean, without realizing that it's a government mandate, finance ka kuch jhamela hai, hum hamare upar डाल रहे हैं. So yeah, continue.
Yeah, so one fundamental thing which we did was we completely separated these two things, wherein this process of technology driven reconciliation, compliance and reclaim should be separate with respect to employee getting money back on time. So the way it happens now is there is absolutely no change when it comes to employee filing the expenses. They get their money back on time. At the same time, once these expenses are getting filed, because this is also a time constrained activity, we are passing that data on a real time basis to Finkraft so that this activity gets initiated, and within a matter of 24 hours, we have whatever is required from a Government of India standpoint. So as an end employee, I am getting money back on time. I am still not concerned about my organization reclaiming GST or not, but the fundamental objective of finance organization is also getting solved. So that's how we have gone about addressing it.
Thanks. I think wonderful, because nobody is doing anything differently, but it is technology that is taking over some of these complexities and trying to make it, as you rightly said, no touch, seamless process, and no heartburn for the employee and no NPS getting impacted because of this. We are close to time, so I just would like to hear some last comments. Maybe you can add what are some of the benefits that you see going forward with this kind of a scenario coming in.
See, we are like to create something like the Digi Yatra, no? You just go, check in, come out, and the payment is in your account on a real-time basis, no TAT, nothing like that, no? Okay. The system takes care of the validation, system takes care of things. Now, while I was talking to Rohit, previously we used to call for boarding pass, to know the genuinity of the travel. Yeah. I was asking, can you automate the same thing? No? Then there is no requirement. With credit card integrations, you just get the data, and if you can enhance the item-wise kind of things and some way automate the input process also, I believe it create that experience of seamlessly passing through without checking and that create that experience. And obviously it comes with reduction of TAT. Productive efficiency, as I said, no, it's a completely manual thing. Huge improvement in terms of efficiency and productivity, and obviously create, as I said, no, the NPS much better for us.
Absolutely. And you have, I think, close to 50,000 employees who are always traveling.
50,000 employee, but 50,000 no years, and if you convert into 5 or 10 line items, it's almost about 5 lakh.
Line items per month. My God. Okay, so obviously automation is the way to go, and I think collaboratively we can do that. Any last comment, thoughts?
I think just building on both these points, I think today we live in a regime because every month you've got that 20 तारीख का fatwa, 10 तारीख का fatwa, right? And it's always a very reactive approach. Why should I reconcile? Can we be, because of this real-time integrations and all the stakeholders being there, can it not be done in the same month itself? Can I tell my supplier to ensure that you file it properly? Can my purchase registers not be done after that checks and validations? So I think the age has come now with the maturity of all this ecosystem which is now getting built, that because of this collaboration, can we go into moving from reactive to being proactive, and thereby, going to the dream stage, which Mihir correctly talks about, is giving not only your employee getting, I think each of these stakeholders is struggling. Again, as I started my conversation, it's not me who created this. I was born out of each of the stakeholders. Even when I was sitting, I still recall the days when I was talking to Qatar Airways, and they were struggling, small office, Doha, and we all into a video conference. What do we do suddenly? And it's a global process. What do we do for India? There is no way in GDS where there are columns to map that. The data is not coming properly. How do we do it? This solves for everybody.
Thanks. Yeah,
Just to add here, I'm seeing the other advantage that you was talking about the supplier score. Today, when we go for negotiation, we don't have anything apart from the nights, apart from the number of trips. I think it will be additional sword in our thing that you can go and negotiate better and get a better rate.
Thank you.
So
30 seconds for
yeah.
both of you.
So I'll just say, so in adjudications and litigations that we see, it is not every time an intention to evade tax, but it is more of some process failure down the line. So with Finkraft, with SAP, you have those integrations, be it a Thomas Cook or a RIA or MXGBT or MX. When we come together as an ecosystem, we create a platform where no one errs, because everything is real time and reconciling with each other. So we can get into a world where more time is spent productively in making corporate finance decisions and not in litigations.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to mention is the awareness part. Awareness at two fronts. One is at employee as well as the supplier front to get the right kind of invoice, right? So I myself checked out this morning and I was told, sir, it will take us some time and we need to talk to our finance team to give you a GST invoice. And this is through a premium brand, right? Think about tier 2 and tier 3 city hotels. Now, second thing is awareness also from internal finance team point of view, because whenever I am talking to the customer, this is not the topic which is coming from them. This is the topic we are guiding them, right? So they also need to be educated upon that there is a better way of doing things. The days when we were doing manual reconciliation by talking to multiple sources are gone. Now there are technologies available to do that in a better way. So that's what I want to say.
So thank you. I think time is up. I think for me, just to wrap it up,